just moments ago, if you were listening to Theo Ussherwood speaking to James O'Brien here on LBC, you will have heard an extraordinary exchange in the House of Commons between the Labour MP for Slough, Tanmanjeet Singh Dhesi, putting a question to Boris Johnson about the party's review or not of Islamophobia in the Conservative Party. Well, the MP joins me now. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Sheila.
Well, you caused quite a moment in the House of Commons there. There was huge support for you, not just from your Labour colleagues, but on opposition benches across your side of the House. What motivated you to ask this particular question?
Well, Sheila, I could have asked an array of questions, but I knew that a lot of other colleagues would probably be focusing in on Brexit and no deal, which is what I initially wanted to ask because of its catastrophic consequences. But what I ultimately decided was that, in terms of Islamophobia, the Prime Minister needs to be held to a higher standard. He needs to be held accountable. He has still not apologised. And even after my question, and even after the Lib Dem leader, Joe Swinson, also exhorted him to apologise, he still did not apologise. And there are a lot of people out there, like myself, I thought it was particularly pertinent that I should be asking such a question because I also wear an article of clothing, in terms of a turban, and there are many people out there, many vulnerable women who are wearing a burqa or a hijab who have seen a spike in terms of hate crime, and that is why the Prime Minister should have been held accountable. And I thought that is why I needed to ask that question to ensure that there's a voice for those voiceless women.
His initial response to you was along the lines of, you must read my article again. It was actually about the liberalism of this country, and it was in support of people, whether it be you in the turban or a woman and the hijab or a woman in the burqa, being allowed to wear that item of clothing or whatever item of clothing simply because of the freedoms in this country. You clearly read it differently. Did you read it as a racist article?
Well, Sheila, it was such a poor response from the Prime Minister. I've read his article, and as I said, words do have consequences. When he uses such loaded terms, that then actually leads to that spike in hate crime. And for him to be either using in terms of I'm related to so-and-so or I can't, that wasn't what my intention was. He knew full well what his intention was. And I think this addresses a wider point within our polity in terms of the denigration within the language used. You will have heard that the Prime Minister used another four-letter word beginning with S in the middle of his exchange.
He did.
That is also diabolical. People around the world are watching. They are thinking that the British Parliament is to a higher standard, and by individuals like him, who has been the former Mayor of London, who is now the former Foreign Secretary and now serving as our Prime Minister, I think he would have done himself a lot of credit had he just turned around and said, I apologise, and I tell you what, I'm going to order an inquiry into Islamophobia, something, as I said, he and his Chancellor promised on national television, which once again they are reneging on their promise.
I mean, anyone with ears, I think, would agree with you that his language today and previously has coarsened the public debate, but certainly pushed boundaries on it. But again, I ask you, was that article racist?
It was, and that's why I said it's racist remarks. Sheila, if we juxtapose his verbose, eloquence when he was Mayor of London in terms of multiculturalism, in terms of he was celebrating the diversity of the greatest capital on earth, etc., etc. We had heard that ad nauseum again and again. But now he has become so right-wing in order to try to chase the increasing ageing and right-wing membership of the Conservative Party. He has changed tack, which is why so many people refer to him as a liar, as a charlatan, and he needs to be called out on that.
If your party now or sometime down the line is engaged in a general election, I know that the plan is to get the no-deal legislation locked in first, according to the Labour leader and others in your party. But down the line, you will be engaged in a general election one way or another with this individual. His message is razor-sharp focused. It is about two things. It is about delivering Brexit come what may, and it is about softening the hardest edges of austerity and starting to loosen the purse strings. Labour's manifesto, Labour's message will be what?
Well, look, Sheila, we had that at the last election, and I thought that what we did was absolutely brilliant in terms of our manifesto. When things go out to the wider public in a general election, they don't just focus in on one issue. Theresa May found that to her detriment last time, and I think Boris Johnson will discover that when we put forward our excellent array of policies on things that actually matter. And when the Prime Minister is talking about getting rid of austerity, well, he's one of the key architects of austerity. Over so many years, he's been the one that has been voting to cut down 21,000 police officers. He's been the one that's been involved in cutting council funding and our public services by more than 41%, and so on and so on. So that is why I think that when a general election will be coming, and I think what we need to do first of all is to get rid of the potential for a catastrophic no deal. Once we've got that out of the way, then the likes of me are not shirking from a general election or any any avenue to go back to the electorate. So let's have that, but let's get rid of that catastrophic eventuality in the first place of a no-deal Brexit.
Thank you for joining us today. Tanmanjeet Singh Dhesi, the Labour MP for Slough.